The Kizer Smolt is a small, relatively new knife from Kizer. I've been using it for the last couple of weeks now and wanted to share my thoughts on it. So the blade is made from 3V and is a hair under 3 inches long. So I've been using it around the house a lot for just breaking down cardboard and some other kind of random tasks like that. And it's held its edge pretty well. It seems in line with everything else I have that's 3V, which is what I was hoping for. I know a lot of people don't like using their knives for cardboard, but I specifically was trying to use this knife for just everything I could. That way I can make a review with actually having some time using it. So Kizer states that the hardness level is 59, and when I went to Crucible's website, that's what they recommend for 3V. So I think that means it's going to be pretty standard. And from everything I used it for, this seems pretty in line. I didn't have any complaints with it. I didn't use it for anything real intense, just like I said, normal EDC daily task type stuff. But I was pretty happy with the blade overall. But that brings me to my first big negative, and that's going to be the coating they used on the blade. So they use this black coating, and it looks really good. Like, I love the grayscale this knife has going on with like the different shades and the different textures. I think it's a really good looking knife. But soon as I started using it, it immediately started scratching up. And I know that's going to happen with a knife. I'm not expecting it to stay looking brand new. But this was literally the first time I was using it, that coating started coming off. But this knife is supposed to be used for daily use stuff. That's kind of its main purpose. So I just hate that it can't hold up to it. So we'll get into price point and use cases later in the video. But this is a cheaper, just daily use knife. So I don't think it looking a little worn is going to be a deal breaker for most people. But just know that will happen. You might get it, use it once, and notice some scratches down that black coating. So moving back to the handle, I really like how they did this. So it's actually G10 with Micarta inlays. So looking cool is one of the most important things when buying a knife. And I think they did that here. It's really interesting. It's minimalist without being boring. So having the G10 be one solid color and then Micarta have that design in it really gives it some visual distinction. So this will stand out in your collection, but it also has a functional purpose. Not so much the fact that one's Micarta and one's G10, but what they did is the G10 is fairly smooth, so it's going to be comfortable in your hand, but the Micarta has a texturing on it to help with your grip. It's mostly done because there's these slits running through it, which once again look nice and kind of help you actually grab the knife. It is a fairly small handle. Like, I can get a full 4-finger grip on there, but it is nice to have a little bit of assistance. I purposely used it with and without gloves and didn't really see an issue either way. It is relatively flat. There's not a lot of contouring. There is a little bit of roundness on the side, but not much. So that's entirely personal preference. Some people love when there are finger grooves or big contouring to it. I'm not super picky either way. Just know if you like heavily contoured knives, you probably won't like this. They were much more concerned about being smooth and easy to hide than the grip itself. So I'll have the overall width and everything, like the actual size, up on the screen. But I know that doesn't mean a whole lot without something to compare it to. So I'll have it next to a CRKT Minimalist, which is what I previously used kind of where this knife shines. And I'll have a Ferrum Forge Lackey also by it because I think it's also a similar use case. So you can kind of see how all those knives stack up. Alright, so now let's talk about the sheath. So I think the sheath is one of the most undervalued parts of a knife. If a knife has a bad sheath, you probably won't carry it no matter how awesome the knife is. And there are knives I've carried just because I like how they carry even though the knife itself is kind of meh. So this is going to be black Kydex, and the retention is about where you want it, not too tight. Has that nice pop, so no real complaints there. One thing I don't like is to help with the retention, the Kydex comes back pretty far on the knife, so it does have a little bit on the higher end of retention within that range of what I personally like. But the bad thing with that is they don't give you much of a thumb ramp. There is this little piece here you can get your thumb on, it feels a little awkward to use because that's where the Kizer starts to split from where they've connected it up here. So I would have liked something to kind of actually help it a purchase on that to pull the knife out. Standing here intentionally doing it, it's not bad. I tried this pocket carry and belt carry, and those can be a little hard to actually draw the knife from. Like, having the extra material is totally fine. It helps retention. It's a little more idiot-proof as far as the actual sheath design. I just wish there was a little bit of a thumb ramp. So one nice thing with this sheath is I carried it a few different ways and liked all of them pretty much. So one way I carried this just for a day or two was belt carry, where I had the soft loops through it. So that's normally how I carry my knives. Also, if you want to vertical carry it, it has the attachment points on both sides. So any of those ulti clips, anything like that, you can use as well. I didn't personally try that out on here, but I'm sure it would work. So my favorite way to carry this, partly because I don't have a knife that is very good in this method, because I mostly have bigger blades, is pocket carry, like in athletic shorts. So if I want to go for a jog or just run out into town and don't want to change clothes, like just need to go in, grab something from Walmart and come out, this fits in a pocket pretty well, and you really can't see it just because it's not heavily contoured, everything's perfectly flat. So it's fairly lightweight. Like I said, nothing sticks out on it. There's no clip or anything, so I think for pocket carry, it's a pretty good design. And it doesn't have super bright colors on it, so if it does slightly stick out of your pocket, no one will probably notice it anyway. Like I said, I hadn't really pocket carried before, so that's relatively new for me, but this was like the first time I actually found it enjoyable to do. So another option you can do here would be a neck knife. This sheath has 2 holes up top where you can run either a dog tag chain or rope or whatever, or paracord, and tie it around your neck. So I personally found it a little bit big for a neck knife, but I think where that comes from is that I typically carry a CRKT minimalist, and those are about as small as you can get. And typically when I wear a neck knife, it's because I'm out running. So I'm working out, but I want something on me. So I want something that when I'm sweaty and I'm running and it's kind of bouncing around, it's not annoying, and it's also not super obvious that I'm wearing one. Like, you can still obviously tell, but it's not too bad. From what I've seen from what most people do for neck knives though, this is pretty much in line with that size. So I think it'd be fine for that. If you're used to carrying one in that style and you're looking for something in 3V, this is probably a pretty good option. Like I said, I just use it for running, and I wear fairly tight shirts when I run, so it's fairly obvious if I'm wearing one. So that's the only reason I want it to be a little bit smaller. So let's talk price. Basically everywhere has it right around that $70 mark, which for the materials like G10 and Micarta and it being in 3V, I think that's really good. If you go to Blade HQ's website, sort for 3V, then go by cheapest to most expensive, you basically see that knife is the cheapest, one other one that's pretty close to it, and then it immediately jumps up to $150. So I think you really can't argue that it's not a pretty good value for what you're getting. So for use cases, I think this really shines as a daily carry knife. And this knife is small enough you can put it in a pocket, put it on your belt, whereas a neck knife, do basically whatever you need to do with it, and you can take it basically anywhere. And for daily carry, it's kind of that nice in-between size. It's not like a CRKT minimalist or something where it's so small you can't really do hardly anything with it, but it's not so big it's going to be obvious you have a knife if you work in like an office or something. So you can take it pretty much anywhere, but it's still a fairly useful size. A lot of the knives that I've carried that are kind of that profile typically have way cheaper materials and they're not as comfortable in the hand. So I think this is a pretty good upgrade compared to a lot of what's on the market right now. So if anyone actually has this knife and carries it daily, let me know what your experience is down in the comments. Thank you for watching.